The massive crash that we've been seeing on Bitcoin over the last 2 weeks has likely not come to a conclusion. We saw Donald Trump announce on Sunday that we were going to be seeing a crypto strategic reserve, and the massive gain that Bitcoin witnessed following that announcement has already been erased. In today's video, I'm going to explain to you exactly why the bottom for Bitcoin probably is not in just yet, and where it will be, and more importantly, when we will be going into our major uptrend. So without much further ado, let's go ahead and dive right on into it. We're going to explain more in a future piece of content exactly why these tariffs are happening and why they are literally about the best thing that has ever happened to the Bitcoin market. But today, I want to talk about the short-term implications of them. I'm going to explain to you why everything is happening in geopolitics and where we're going in the rest of this century and how it's going to pave the way for Bitcoin being the new nuclear warhead in the second Cold War that we're entering into in a future video. But today, I want to talk about exactly why these tariffs are causing a massive crash on Bitcoin and when that crash will conclude. Ever since we started seeing tariffs coming into play, we have seen a major crash on U.S. stocks. The United States S&P 500 has dropped from 612 points, down 5.74% over the last 2 weeks or so, down to about 578. This crash has fueled a dive on Bitcoin, and as we rallied up to our recent local resistance here on this downtrend, Bitcoin rejected from it on Monday following the announcement of a crypto strategic reserve. Even the news of a crypto strategic reserve is apparently not bullish enough to counter the short-term bearish effects of tariffs. Now, tariffs, what are they? Why do they matter? Whenever somebody imports a good into the United States, a tariff is a tax that the United States federal government places on that import. So if somebody sells us an avocado from Mexico and the avocado costs $1, then the United States is going to tax that avocado 25% starting yesterday on Tuesday, March the 4th. Because yesterday on Tuesday, March the 4th, Donald Trump's 25% sweeping tariffs on Canada and Mexico went into full swing. And we immediately saw the massive stock market correction as a result of those tariffs. Following those tariffs going into effect on Monday and Tuesday, we have seen a large correction on U.S. stocks, down about 3.5%. Now, without getting into too much detail about the tariffs, because we're going to talk about that in future content, these tariffs in the short term are most likely going to lead to a regional trade war in USMCA, which is the United States Mexican-Canadian agreement, which replaced NAFTA in July of 2020, and it's almost certainly going to lead to short-term inflation. It's basically a foregone conclusion that we're going to see inflation passed down to the consumer on all kinds of goods, from cars to groceries to anything else that you could buy. Short term, we are reeling from the COVID-19 pandemic, and the United States is especially tired of inflation. So this is a relatively unpopular direction that we're moving in short term that Trump is taking us, and it's also unpopular in the market, which is why we're seeing this crash in U.S. stocks. It also means that people are fleeing to the stock market away from risk on assets that they perceive to be more risky than the U.S. stock market, like Bitcoin. So as the United States stock market drops 5%, Bitcoin drops 25%. And the end is not in sight just because Donald Trump announced a crypto strategic reserve, which we basically already knew was coming anyway. In the short term, we didn't know whether or not this was going to enter us into a new rally, but we now have essentially total confirmation that our price target at $73,800 is still intact, and Bitcoin is most likely going to visit those levels. But let's talk about why, not just from the fundamental standpoint, but also from the technical standpoint. On Trump's announcement of a United States crypto strategic reserve, we rallied over 10% on Bitcoin straight up to this downtrending level of resistance. Over the course of the months of December and January, Bitcoin had been trading sideways, setting equivalent highs and lows here in between $91,500 and $108,000 respectively. About a week and a half ago, when tariffs started impacting the U.S. stock market, Bitcoin broke bearish out of this symmetrical triangle pattern, and we crashed all the way back down to the same level that we dropped to during the last correction, which was the 0.5% Fibonacci retracement level. This time, that was at $80,000. That's exactly where we fell. On Trump's announcement, hopes were high that we would be able to end this correction and start the next leg of the uptrend, but for reasons we're going to continue to explain, that's not what's about to happen. Bitcoin rejected at the 20 daily exponential moving average. We rejected on this downtrending level of resistance, and we failed to put in a daily chart buy signal on LuxAlgo, as you can see right here. We are still under a sell signal from LuxAlgo, and you should definitely pay attention to what LuxAlgo says because it's almost always right. Make sure to sign up for LuxAlgo with the link in the description box down below or by going to luxalgo.com/Jeb. Furthermore, since Trump announced his crypto strategic reserve creation on Sunday, this left a CME gap that needed to be filled, one of the largest CME gaps that Bitcoin has ever witnessed. And so the immediate filling of the CME gap is not a surprise. Our prior targets of $73,800 are not just because of the technicals that we've discussed both in this video and all of our recent catalog of content. The reason that we're expecting a $73,800 Bitcoin is also as a result of the tariffs. Make no mistake, these tariffs will end up being one of the dominant reasons that Bitcoin wins the second Cold War that is beginning right now before our very eyes. It will be one of the reasons that Bitcoin becomes the world reserve currency, and it will become one of the reasons why Bitcoin will be crowned the king commodity within the next 20 to 30 years. But for now, these tariffs are causing absolute Machiavellian chaos because people are sick and tired of inflation, and everyone knows that these tariffs are going to bring inflation. I'm going to explain the longer-term perspective and zoom way out. We're going to deal with over 150 years of history in a video I'm working on right now. That video is coming. I'm going to explain to you why these tariffs in the long run are actually a really good thing for Bitcoin. But for now, and probably for the foreseeable future, as in the next few weeks to months, they are going to be a massive net negative on the United States stock market and on the Bitcoin market. Until U.S. stocks start rallying past all-time high, and until we see the United States economy learn how to deal with these tariffs and their short-term consequences, Bitcoin is looking at some major headwinds. Does this mean the bull market is over? No, it does not, but it does mean that we are likely going to need to settle in for a protracted season of lower prices on Bitcoin, and that gives us an action step. If you have not already built an investment in Bitcoin, this is your chance to do so because these are discounted levels that we're not always going to see. We are going to see a arms race to acquire Bitcoin over the course of the next 20 to 30 years by nations around the world, especially by the United States and China, as they use Bitcoin as an economic weapon against each other. But neither of them are in yet, and you can beat them. So you need to act wisely right now and decide, are you interested in being invested in the next piece of technology that is going to become the future virtual economic battleground between the two most powerful nations on planet Earth? Or are you going to sit on the sidelines and miss out on the history that is being written right now? What I am talking about is too big to ignore, and we're working on a massive documentary-style video on this exact concept, so stay tuned for that. Since I'm working on this big video, I didn't have time to script this video. I just sat down and said, you know what, we'll shoot a video on today. So hopefully you enjoyed today's video. We normally script these. This was all off the cuff, all monologue. I hope you guys have enjoyed today's video. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I really appreciate all of you guys tuning in. The future for Bitcoin is extremely bright. But the reason that the future for Bitcoin is extremely bright is causing the near term to be relatively dark, dreary, and dismal. But isn't that kind of the perfect investment setup? The future looks incredible, and the short term looks so bad that everybody who doesn't see what's coming leaves, giving you lower prices to enter in at. I'm very excited about that, and I think you should be too. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, sign up for LuxAlgo if you haven't already, and also make sure to sign up for the Financial Sovereignty Academy with the links in the description box down below. Learn how to succeed with money in a changing world. And before I go, I do just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.